Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly, the show where I give you guys the top 5 prog news headlines, introduce you guys to some new prog singles, and give you updates on what's happening here on the channel on Nathan on Shuffle. It's April 10th, 2026, and it's a big show today. There's a lot of big news. I've been doing this show every other week when I used to do it every week. So it's given me a lot more items to do each episode. So I think it's really worked for me, and it's led me to have a lot of stuff to talk about today. So it's probably going to be a little bit of a lengthy show, but I'll try to get through the items pretty quickly. I'm sure the main big headline is one that you guys are aware of as big prog fans out there, but just want to weigh in with my thoughts and let you guys know what's going on. So I like to open up these shows by talking about the new releases that have come out over the past couple weeks. One of the big ones that everyone's been talking about that I want to spend a little bit of time here on is the Engin de Poitrine, Volume 2 that came out April 3rd. They're kind of all the rage on YouTube and other platforms right now, all the social media sites. I've been seeing them pop up for months now with this live performance that they did. They dress up in these kind of bizarre costumes with polka dots and long noses and play this microtonal math rock music, which is really fun and catchy in a weird way, even though it's very avant-garde and different as well. And I've been captured by it just as everyone else has. I've seen a lot of my friends review the new album, and I've seen a lot of reactors that I respect react to their live performances. I haven't really talked in depth about it because I just didn't want to add to the noise and just give the same opinion that a million other people on YouTube have already given. But I'm a big fan of this group. I think it's really amazing to see a prog-leaning act become like this viral sensation and become popular outside of just our own little prog rock bubble. So it's been exciting, and I think it's also kind of a indictment on this kind of shift to AI and how there's a lot of worry about AI impacting music. I'm worried about it, about covering music on the channel that ends up being AI music or very heavily created by AI. Sometimes it's hard to tell, and I even saw a little bit of that in my last review roundup. Some of the albums that I covered were, some people claim are AI assisted music, perhaps. But it's cool to see two guys that are just playing music themselves and capturing people with their own unique style. Really cool, the looping effect that one of the musicians, the guitarist, bassist, is able to create these cool loops and builds on top of it, and great drumming, great rhythms, great everything. So a really cool group. The album is short but really well done, and I'll be talking about it in my April roundup, certainly. But I wanted to just give a little bit of a spotlight to them because it's been something I've seen a lot of people talk about online. They have some European and UK tour dates coming up in October, so that's something to look forward to see them live if you're in those markets. They're playing Brighton's Great Escape Festival as well as sold-out shows in London, Bristol, and Leeds in the coming month. So should be really cool to see them live if you're into that, and to see those future dates later on. Also coming out, Green Carnation, their album A Dark Poem Part 2, Sanguis. This came out April 3rd as well. They're more, prog metal. Not too much of the heavier kind of growling stuff on this, much more kind of heavy prog perhaps. This is part 2 of this trilogy of albums that they're coming out with, and another solid entry. Hex has their album Kisma coming out. This is prog metal, kind of theatrical concept record that's interesting. We've got some interesting, to me in the prog world, one of the best releases to come out recently is Magenta's Tarot, which came out today, April 10th. symphonic prog rock, just totally retro and classic as they're known to do. I was listening to that this morning and really loving the record. Great female vocals. Rob Reed is kind of the genius behind the group, and Christina Booth contributes fabulous vocals to it. Basically a concept record about the tarot cards and all the different characters that you see on those. Richard Barbieri from Porcupine Tree fame has an instrumental electronic progressive album called Hauntings that came out today as well. And Polymath has a new album, Something Deeply Hidden. This is a band that's on the Laser's Edge label. Instrumental prog rock, just really cool, has a bit of King Crimson vibes, and if you like Engine de Poitrine, that kind of math rocky instrumental prog, this is also of that ilk, but a little bit more varied and a little bit more traditional prog, I'd say, than just kind of cool post-punk math rock like what Engine de Poitrine do. Also, my new band Believe released their self-titled record, which is a project from the Black Midi former bassist. Black Midi broke up. Jordy Greep did a solo album now. I believe it's Cameron Picton did his solo record here, and he's calling this project My New Band Believe, which has a more folky tinge to it, but definitely very complex and interesting and intricate, just like Black Midi. So I've been really digging that record. It's pretty short, but has some really interesting pieces of music on it. So I'd recommend that to the more adventurous friends out there who want to check out some cool, interesting indie prog type music. So some really cool releases there, and there's others that I didn't mention that I'm sure will be mentioned in the comment. A lot of stuff in the more heavier metal vein, but isn't really my cup of tea necessarily, but I know there's been a lot of cool stuff coming out. I feel like things are heating up in the new releases recently, so I'm really excited about that. But the big headline news that I wanted to mention, of course, is that there's going to be a new Yes album called Aurora, releasing June 12th on Inside Out Music. This is their 24th studio album. Yes's current lineup is Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, John Davison, Billy Sherwood, and Jay Shellen. They released their first single, the title track from the record today. And it sounds, in line with kind of their recent records. Mirror to the Sky was their previous one, and before that, The Quest. So this kind of fits into that feel, more of this kind of new era Yes music with some orchestration and some really nice sounds to it, and I really appreciate it. I think it's a really pleasant single, not blowing my socks off like it's the rebirth of Close to the Edge or anything, but just really solid for the newest iteration of the band, in my opinion. So it's exciting. The new album's up for pre-order in various sites and various formats, available as a limited deluxe 180 gram light green 2LP plus 2 CD plus Blu-ray art book and poster, as well as limited edition 2 CD plus Blu-ray art book featuring the stunning artwork of Roger Dean and Freya Dean, as well as bonus disc of instrumentals and a Blu-ray featuring Dolby Atmos 5.1 surround sound and 24-bit stereo mixes. Also available as gatefold 180 gram 2LP plus LP booklet, special edition CD digipack, and as a digital album. So the track list is out. It looks pretty interesting. There's a 13 near 14-minute track called Counter Movement. I'm interested to see how that goes. But a lot of kind of shorter tracks around it, some bonus tracks. Should be interesting to see what they've cooked up. I'm guessing it's going to be in a similar vein as Mirror to the Sky, which I thought was a pretty decent Yes album. I really was high on that record. I think it was a good step in the right direction after The Quest, which was good, but maybe a little bit middling for me a bit, but I thought Mirror to the Sky kind of stepped it up a little bit. And I know there's a lot of controversy. A lot of people don't consider this configuration like true Yes. There's a lot of people, no John Anderson, no Yes, no Rick Wakeman, no Yes, that kind of camp. But I'm just happy for these individuals to be coming out with music. Any new Yes music is appreciated from this side. I like seeing these musicians continuing and embracing their passions and doing what they love. I know a lot of people consider this like basically a Steve Howe passion project at this point, but I really respect them that they're continuing even this far into their career. 24 studio albums is pretty impressive, even though it's been like an ever-shifting lineup and, very different configuration creating this record as made all of the classic records in their career. But I'm excited. Other news in the Yes camp, they also announced that they were forced to postpone their upcoming UK Fragile tour as guitarist Steve Howe requires surgery. They were due to begin a 9-date run at Glasgow's Royal Concert Hall later this month, with a tour culminating with 2 nights at the London Palladium in May, during which they plan to perform the whole of 1971's Fragile album, as well as a selection of songs from across their catalog. But they made the decision that they have to postpone for Steve Howe's health reasons, and they should be coming back with Steve Howe in full health to deliver the full performance as intended later on. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll update with any news on that front. But that's the Yes news of recent times. So I'll definitely be talking about Aurora. I'm sure I'll be doing a review of it on the channel, and I like to talk positively about stuff, so I'm hoping the comments will kind of stay mostly positive about this news. I know there's a lot of negativity online about Yes and their current direction, but I like to keep positive, and I'm just excited that there's more new music to enjoy. Always good. The next news items I want to talk about briefly, Rush performed Finding My Way at the Juno Awards. So there's kind of video circling around of their performance here. I believe the first opportunity to see their new drummer, Anika Niles, which they're going to be touring with in the upcoming tour that everyone's really excited about, this 50-something tour. So it was a really cool performance and really fun to see the band back in action, playing a classic classic Rush song from their past catalog. And I enjoyed watching the performance. I think it was really good. I know some people have been like kind of criticizing Geddy Lee's vocals, and but I think it's really strong for where he's at, his current age and his voice and what he can do with it. I think it really worked well in this small performance, and a cool little taster of what you might be able to expect from their upcoming tour that they'll be doing. Jethro Tull announced a 6-disc reissue of their 1984 album Under Wraps. This is the Under Wraps, the Unwrapped edition, on May 5th through Chrysalis Records. The new 6-disc set brings together the band's 1984 studio album Under Wraps and main man Ian Anderson's debut solo album 1983's sonically adjacent Walk Into Light. The 5 CD and Blu-ray set has been overseen by Ian Anderson, includes both original albums, which have been extensively remixed by Pineapple Thief's Bruce Sword in 2 different remixes, 2026 drums and original drums remixes, because one of the controversies about Under Wraps is the drums on the record, which just people have not enjoyed kind of this programmed, not organic drum sound. So we'll be seeing how they update that sound for this new remixed version that Bruce Sword has worked on. The discs also include associated recordings from that period, while the 5th CD is a live recording from a BBC Radio 1 concert at the Hammersmith Odeon in 1984, and the Blu-ray contains stereo and Dolby Atmos mixes along with promo videos from the era. The set comes complete with a 100-page book offering an extensive article on the making of the records. So really exciting package. I'm not a big fan of Under Wraps, I'll admit. It was probably one of the lower ranked Jethro Tull records when I did my big album ranking. I've never really been all that into it, but I like them revisiting these records and kind of breathing new life into them, getting remixed and, adding new elements and kind of giving a spotlight to these old records. I think that's really cool, and it makes me curious, especially with that 2026 drums mix, to see if that adds any life to these recordings. I'd be interested to see. So that's something to check out, something to pre-order and look forward to in the future. This will be a cool package to look forward to if you're so inclined. I believe it's available to pre-order now in, wherever you get your prog music. It should be available in short order, so that's going to be a fun release. Pink Floyd announced a new compilation album, including an extended version of a classic track. This new compilation album features 8 tracks recorded between 1971 and 79, including tracks from Metal, Obscured by Clouds, The Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and The Wall. It includes an extended version of the Animals track Pigs on the Wing, previously available only on the 8-track cartridge version of the original album. So, just another compilation to get people into Pink Floyd. 8 tracks is the name of the record. It's going to be released via Sony Music on July 5th on CD and vinyl, available to pre-order now. I know a lot of the viewers of this channel, this is probably not of very much interest because if you like Pink Floyd, you're already a massive fan and have the whole collection and catalog. But I thought it was cool that they're trying to introduce new fans. The track list has one of these days from Metal. What's the Deal from Obscured by Clouds, Money from Dark Side of the Moon, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, The Wall, Wish You Were Here from Wish You Were Here, Time from the Dark Side of the Moon, Comfortably Numb from The Wall, and The Pigs on the Wing. That was mentioned previously. So basically, a small greatest hits collection to get into the band, and hopefully it'll add some more fans. I think that's a cool thing. Number 5, Deep Purple announced a summer 2026 North American tour with Kansas. So this is British hard rock legends Deep Purple announcing their summer North American tour. Support from Kansas and Jefferson Starship on select dates. The trek kicks off August 4th in Raleigh, North Carolina, and wraps up September 12th in Sparks, Nevada. So tickets are now on sale. I thought that was interesting news, especially seeing that Kansas is accompanying them, who I think is an underrated prog band. So check those bands out. It's always cool to see these classic legacy bands still touring and doing activity out there. So I think that's really cool. And then getting into some of the newer prog stuff, some of the singles and such on my list. Pliny announced a new album, An Unnamable Desire, and shared the title track. This new album will be released Friday, April 24th. So he's a prog metal guitarist virtuoso, perhaps, and does this kind of gent style, so to speak, but always very adventurous and fun to listen to. So if you're into Pliny and his music, that is a cool new album to check out. Einar Solberg launches a new track, Vida Fragilis, featuring the Norwegian Orchestra from his upcoming album, Vox Occulta. This is the frontman of Leprous, and this new album seems to be very symphonic and, a lot of orchestration and a lot of theatrics. He's kind of treating his solo work as the more theatrical vehicle for his music, whereas Leprous is the more band-oriented, prog metal stuff. So this album will be out April 24th via Inside Out Music, and it's available for pre-order as well. And this is just another epic track from the record if you want to check it out on my prog singles list, which will be a link to my playlist on YouTube of all of these tracks from throughout the year. So if you want to check out some new prog, it's a cool playlist to check out to listen to the latest and greatest. That new Yes single, Aurora, is also going to be on that list, as well as Port Noir. They released their new single, Burst. This is a Swedish prog trio releasing their record on Inside Out Music as well on May 15th. More of a darker, heavier, more prog metal leaning band, but I've really been liking their singles recently, so I think that's a really cool project to look forward to. Evergrey has a new single, The World Is on Fire. They're introducing their new guitarist on this single. Their new album, Architects of a New Weave, is coming out June 5th via Napalm Records, more in the heavy prog metal direction. But, they have a bit of a cinematic flair and, do these kind of conceptual pieces and such. So that should be cool to check out. And, you could check out their new guitarist, Stephen Platt, who's been touring with them and now is officially joining as a full-time member. Also on my list, some kind of catch-up from some of the previous weeks. I think I may have already been talking about this, but Bruce Sword has a new solo album coming out called Ghosts in the Park. Of course, the frontman of Pineapple Thief. The new single, Pillars, is out and is on my list. The album itself is going to be released May 15th. So that's something to look forward to. More of a singer-songwriter, laid-back, kind of sparse record, not really supremely proggy from what I gather, more about kind of the quiet spaces between the music a little bit. But I think it'll be a really cool release. Elder has a new track through Zero. I've talked about their upcoming record coming out May 29th. Just fantastic, stoner, heavy psych, prog music. I'm really looking forward to that record. So I wanted to point attention towards it since I haven't talked about it in a while. Colin Edwin and John Wesley have a project, Voyage 35. They're both prior members of Porcupine Tree, and they're covering material from the classic early days of Porcupine Tree. And they have a track out called The Nostalgia Factory, which is a classic, early Porcupine Tree track that they're covering here. A reimagined 8-minute version of the song, paying homage to Porcupine Tree's formative era. So this is kind of a first listen to what they're capable of as this new little project, and they have some tour dates in Europe later on as well. So something to listen to and enjoy, to see some of these prior Porcupine Tree members and what they have in store. And also Vandenplas has a new single, Far Off Grace, taken from their new upcoming acoustic album, Occult 2. This is a German prog metal band. This album will be coming out June 12th via Frontiers Music. So another cool work, another interesting track to check out. So there's quite a few new prog singles on my list to check out on that YouTube playlist. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that and checking it out and keeping apprised of all the great new music. As for the channel itself and what I've been doing recently, I did a review of the Deer Hunter album Sunya, which I have my vinyl copy above my head. It's a little beaten up because they smashed the mailman, put it in the mailbox, crammed it in there, and it was wedged so tight I could barely pull it out of the mailbox. I've been considering ordering a new copy of it or something because it's pretty beaten up, but I think the vinyl itself is fine. But yeah, it was kind of a disappointment to get the album in that condition. So it may be a little bit beat up, but still a great record, one of my favorites of the year. If you haven't listened to my review of it, I'd urge you to check that out. I also did a March review roundup this past week of several albums that I've been enjoying throughout the month of March. And some real great highlights in there if you're looking for a lot of cool prog recommendations. Those monthly roundup episodes are some of my favorites to do, so I'm really happy to continually put those out. There'll be one for April. It's early April, and I already have a bunch of candidates to talk about on that review roundup, so a cool way for me to talk about a lot of different music. Sometimes doing singular reviews, it's a lot to fill 10 minutes talking about a singular album, especially an obscure one that not many people are going to click on or be interested in. But when I combine them in a package of multiple albums that I'm talking about, I think people are more inclined to check that out and get several recommendations all at once. So I'm hoping this week to do the second part of my series of the Big Six prog bands. I did a classic prog version of what my personal Big Six classic prog bands are, and I'm going to update that with some modern prog bands. I'm going to do 2 other episodes about it. One is going to be the 6 bands of the third wave prog, 90s into the early 2000s era prog. And then I'm going to do a final one of post-2000s prog bands, the newest era of prog, and the Big Six, I think, that are in the conversation of kind of the current zeitgeist of progressive rock. So that's what I have coming up for you in the near future. Hopefully some new album reviews as well. There's a new Brass Camel album coming out that I'll probably review. In May, there's going to be a couple of records from the likes of Advent Horizon and Crownlands. So I'm really excited about what's coming up on the channel. Let me know in the comments any news items I missed, any albums that are coming out that you're excited for, that you want me to check out. And I'm grateful to be able to do this show week by week. It's really fun. Hopefully you guys will catch me probably in 2 weeks from now for the next big prog news update, and I'll catch you guys in a future episode. Bye everybody, enjoy the music.